Google's AlphaZero, which went from, I'm going to assume, not knowing what chess was because it hadn't been programmed into it, to being flipped on. And then within 9 hours, it taught itself to play chess better than any human being alive. If that
And any software alive.
and how does that, did it just play itself over and over and over again and learn how to
Yeah,
improve based off of the outcome?
exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of playing itself millions and millions of times over and learning something each time from that process. And this is basically the same process that today's chatbots, ChatGPT, et cetera, use to acquire language ability. And so again, when you look at that process and you look over time and look at the trend toward self-improvement, that's when it gets scary.
And it gets even scarier when you start looking at it in terms of potential military usages, where it could do
Hmm.
strategic level planning or tactical exercises millions of times over and over and over again at a velocity and rate and scale that human beings cannot even approximate.
Yep.
We end up in some very unknown terrain, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah. That's again where the ants on the NFL playing field metaphor comes in. That's how warfare is going to be fought. I think in the next war, it's going to be setting the AIs loose on each other. And so we are literally just sheltered down, and these gods are fighting above us, and we have no idea what they're doing in real time. We can probably intervene in our human scale here and there, at least in the near term. But of course, to make them effective, it's not hard to see. You'll have to actually let them operate in their own time scale to be effective at combating the other AIs. So you're going to have to let them make decisions in their own time frame, which is going to be a million times faster than human decision making. So effectively, hit the button and they become autonomous agents, and then they become these gods fighting in the heavens above us. And do we survive or not? That's the question. It really becomes a kind of scenario.
Have you read the article about the Air Force exercise with the Reaper drone and the ground controller?
Recent article? No.
It was relatively recent. It was an exercise where they were implementing AI into controlling an overhead drone, and they put into it a rule set. And this is me broadly and probably chopping some of the details up, but I'm going to paint with a broom here, so you'll get the broad strokes. They put in the parameters, and there was a score associated with particular tasks that the drone would have to do. And in my understanding in reading the article, the drone realized that it was the human operator that was limiting its high score. And this was all virtual. This was not an actual exercise.
Yeah.
So it fired a missile at the operator of the drone.
Oh,
Because
okay.
it determined its left and right lateral limits, and it wanted to have the highest score possible, and realized that the human operator was holding it back from the high score. And at that point, I want to rip out every electronic device in my house and create an EMP and keep it with me at all times.
Right. Yeah, well, that's an example of what they call perverse instantiation. So you've given the AI a certain goal, and it's now going to implement that goal to the best of its ability. So unless you put in explicit instructions to not kill the human operator, it's going to figure out, well, that's the best way to, maximize its score and the goal you did give it. And so the idea is that in general, if you are looking to create safe AI, quote unquote, how do you define safe? How do you plan for every scenario? If you also say, AI, please go and make every human being as happy as possible, how do you ensure they don't simply give everyone morphine all the time? You had to program, do not give everyone morphine all the time. And then every infinite possibility in a similar vein of perverse instantiations you had to account for. So again, when it's that intelligent and that powerful, you simply can't do that.
How do these entities and organizations develop AI? Are they doing these in air-gapped rooms with servers that are completely disconnected so it can't get out into the wild?
They're not, and that's part of the tragedy of what's already happened, is that you would think they would do that, right? You would think they'd worry about that kind of thing.
I mean, if you look at it from a clinical perspective, let's say you had a piece of radioactive material that could potentially do harm. Again, I'm no scientist, but I think they go into those puffy suits or viruses, whatever it may be, in the very controlled environments that it never leaves, and they create these entire facilities to be positive pressure, so it keeps everything in. Yeah, now I'm worried that there's some guy at Starbucks just typing away on a laptop developing StarNet